That still picture comes out great. Welcome to another episode of the Influencers Connection Corner. I'm so happy to be here. Happy Saturday to y'all.
Happy Saturday.
Today, I am so honored. The stage of the Influencers Connection Corner is definitely honored to receive two of the most amazing ladies in the caregiving space. And as we know, caregiving is very important. If you don't know how important, well, how about if you take a listen at what Rosalind Carter's quote says? There are only four kinds of people in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who are caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers. Mm-mm-mm. If that doesn't tell you the importance of what a caregiver does in the lives of so many of the people in the community, then today you'll learn. What will you have to say about that, Sia?
So I'm Asian. Okay. So for me, the idea and concept of caregiving is just inherently in it is in our DNA, right? Like our
Mhm,
elders have loved us, cared for us when we were at our most vulnerable as children, as infants.
mhm,
We should be able to reciprocate. And it is ingrained in me that that's just what you do. That's just what it is. There's no
mhm.
if, and, or buts. So for those
Yes,
that pursue this career, to me, it's a noble pursuit. It's a loving pursuit, and I have nothing but profound respect because it's not pretty, people.
it is not an easy, and my hats off to all the caregivers in the world in whichever capacity you're serving. Again, being in the healthcare space for the last 15 years have really allowed me to see and grow in that regard and see so many different scenarios and how caregiving can show up in a person's world. And so, with that said, I am so eager again to just jump in the conversation with these amazing ladies, just experts, influencers in their own space. And the stage is honored. So let's go ahead and run that intro and let's get to it.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Welcome to the Influencers Connection Corner.
And dance and dance. Hey, hey. Hey, caregivers can dance too. Yeah, I think that's actually one of the best ways to release that stress, right? To wind down and actually involve your the person you're taking care of, right? It's a great music is such a great bonding, factor.
I think music just brings humanity together. Like, look, even like that's why I go to concerts all the time because it brings people with different backgrounds, perspectives together
Mhm.
to come together, right? That's why I love music because good, bad, ugly, and difference. When you hear a really good band playing, everyone comes together, and I think that's music. I'm sure Cindy and Christina will tell us about
Whew.
music therapy in therapy as
Yes.
well. So let's do this, girl. I am so beyond excited to have them. Like,
I am excited. Every second counts. So, without further ado, guys, please let us know where you're tuning in from, and please, please, please share the show and just make sure that everybody knows and comes and learns from. Welcome to the stage, Christina and Cindy. Harding.
woo!
Oh, look at her! I
Hello.
love it. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Hello.
Welcome. We are so delighted to have you, ladies.
It is our pleasure. We're
Yes.
excited to be here. We've been looking forward to this since you sent us the invitation. We're so excited.
Yes, very excited to be here.
It's
I
about
mean,
time.
yes. I was like, what took us so long to get
I
together?
don't know.
We're all so busy.
Yes.
I was going to say, is it that just TikTok stars, the YouTube stars who are influencing in the caregiving space? But
Yeah.
no, let's
We're
talk
not
about
worthy.
that.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
No,
Yes.
and again, it's such an honor. We say it in a playful manner, but getting serious, it is. You have been trendsetters
Mhm.
in a space where we are universally going to use caregiving. We will
Right.
wear that hat at one point in our lives, in
Mhm.
one way or another. But people don't realize this space is just growing. There are so many resources for us to dive into, put our hands on. But you ladies have managed to made it in a fun, entertainment way that delivers the most impact, the most value, and it educates. So congratulations on, on YouTube, your YouTube success, your TikTok. I'm not even on TikTok, and look at you guys.
It's caregiving is it can be such an overwhelming position, a job, a career, or something that you just kind of get thrust into that you don't even know that you're a caregiver. We're happy to try to at least add a little bit of light and, happiness to it, and try to, make it a more light thing. So
yeah, lighten things up. It's interesting, that Rosalind Carter quote that you gave. And as a professional caregiver, and most of the time we're like, oh no, we're not really caregivers, we're professional caregivers, we're not personal caregivers. And I was just telling Christina recently, with my mom, we had some things go on, and it was a lot of work to get things ironed out, and she was down in the middle of a move and in the whole 9 yards. And we finally turned to Christina and said, wait a minute, I am a caregiver, and I have been a caregiver for many years. And it's crazy how people don't realize that, but how much of an impact when they really sit back and say, now, wait just a minute, it makes on their lives,
Yeah, we talk about that a lot of times, how caregivers that we run across don't realize that they're caregivers or don't identify as a caregiver. And that's exactly what, Cindy had that light bulb moment too, where she was just like, oh,
and I preach that all the time.
And she does that all the time. We preach that all the time because, at least acknowledging it on whatever level you're doing caregiving, that it's going to help you. It's going to help you in that caregiving journey. If you can at least acknowledge it's you are, then you know where to turn to ask for support. So.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the biggest keywords that you just mentioned, Christina, is support. Having that right support system, because we have to face it and we can't sugarcoat it. Caregiving takes a toll. It takes a physical toll. It takes a mental toll, psychologically, all the aspects. It really does. I've worn that hat many times. Currently, it being a sandwich generation, stuck between, if you don't know what sandwich generation is, audience, it's basically you're stuck between rearing your own children and taking care of elderly parents. So you must, try to imagine, wrap your head around that it is very draining mentally, physically, and we must have the right support. And in the way with Adapted Equipment and Caregiving Corner, ladies, the amount of support that is there in resources for caregivers is just astronomical. So tell us a little bit about that.
We've always said that caregiving is hard on a body. And not only, like you said, Raquel, not only hard, physically and mentally, but in our situation with Adaptive Equipment and Caregiving Corner is financially. So sometimes when caregivers, let's say, an aging parent that you're caring for, goes into a hospital and they come back home, and we need to make their home as safe as possible to make that transition back home. They don't know, the new family caregiver doesn't know where to start. So they just go and they just buy things instead of maybe borrowing things from a lending closet, or maybe buying the wrong things. And now you've got all of this stuff on your hands that maybe they didn't need if you had the right resource, or you reached out to the right resource. We would be able to help you save money. So not only is it hard mentally and physically, it's also hard on your wallet too. So that's kind of where we feel like we come in with our resource, especially with adaptive equipment, the equipment itself.
I gotta tell you, that's what happens. At least for my personal experience with my father, his wife was the primary caregiver. We would buy stuff that he doesn't. I mean, after he passed, we had all this stuff that we just had left over, right? And knowing you now, and I would love to talk more about that, is the cost of caregiving. It can be very expensive for an outsider to help out. And there are things at Medicare, Medicaid, and I would love to talk a little bit about that as well, because people don't realize, yes, it's expensive, but there are options out there that help alleviate. So they're not going to, oh my God, there's so much we could talk about, and I'm getting so educated on it. And oh my God, I'm so excited to talk to you guys because,
so
because
let
you guys do.
Yeah, can I address that, Sia?
Yes.
As far as the expense part of it and the piece of information that we really get, we probably give this piece of information out, I'll bet probably 10 times a week, is that there are lending closets out there. And so a lending closet is usually a not-for-profit organization, and they collect gently used adaptive equipment and home health equipment. They refurbish it, they clean it up, and they lend it out to people in their local communities. So on our website, on aecorner.com, in our resource section, we actually have 2 organizations that are national directories for lending closets across the country. So the whole point behind it is try it before you buy it.
Right.
As a speech therapist, what I used to do, because when I would deal with, when I would have patients that had a stroke, for example, maybe they had to learn how to speak again. They forgot how to enunciate or speak the words. I would borrow one of those alternative communication devices, which is really nothing more than a laptop. It's a computer.
Wow.
But they're super expensive. But I would borrow one from a local lending closet. And then I would work it in my therapy and see if it actually fit in their lifestyle. Were they capable of using something of a communication board like that? And then we would set goals for that. And if they didn't meet it, if they couldn't use it, then we just shipped it back. But it was no money out of their pocket, And so I just think that if there's one piece of information, and there's actually 3 that we like to talk about, but that is a huge one as far as taking care of and looking out for caregivers financially. So please check into, try it before you buy it, and find that lending closet that is near you.
Right.
To me, that was being in the care, in the healthcare space. The idea of lending closets, I was like, what in the world? But oh my gosh, it makes so much sense because there's, and not only that, right? But you actually get to be, coached on how to do these things, how to properly use the equipment. And if you don't, then obviously you have to find the resources. And this is where you come in, where you walk step by step, you review items, you review equipment, and this is just the beautiful work that you all do. How did it all start? Let's go back to that.
I know we kind of jumped right into it. Sorry,
I
guys.
know.
I love you.
Right.
I love you so much. We're like vomit everything.
It kind of started back in 2015. Yeah. And I don't know, I don't even know what brought it up, but we were both in home health at the time. We were driving home from her parents at Christmas, and we're like, we get so many of the same questions from our clients. Wouldn't it be interesting if we just put some videos out there answering some of those typical questions on, how do I use a cane? How do I use a walker? How do I go up and down the steps? Things like that. We did that, started putting videos out on YouTube, did that for a while. Changed in 2018. We started getting some traction, changed over kind of to a subscription model in 2018. But got to the point at 2020 is when we actually kind of made it into a business, and then COVID.
Then COVID happened.
Which wasn't helpful.
Because we couldn't get out we couldn't get out there, so it was just a lot of social media. And that's, I feel like, kind of the track that we ended up taking was because of COVID. So my advice would be, don't start a business during a pandemic.
That's right. That's probably
Too late.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then after that, now we have those, a lot of the videos, over 200 videos behind a subscription. And now our YouTube channel is mainly product reviews. There are so many pieces of equipment and different things out there. And there's so many intelligent people that are coming up with smart, new and improved things, and the majority of who we deal with have been caregivers. And it's something that they developed to help assist them in their caregiving journey, and now they've changed it, turned over into a business. And it's very interesting because we are like kids in a candy shop with equipment and things like that, because
we're geek heads, we're gear heads when it comes to that stuff.
We are, and we are aging and slow. Yes, but the thing is that we always like to tell people, and this is one of the things that we like to promote, is, you can still keep your function. It's going to look different. It's going to look different as you age, but you want to keep as much independence as you can. And that's where different pieces of adaptive equipment or just adapting things. We kind of joke all the time is just using a spoon to get something off the top shelf in a cabinet is a piece of adaptive equipment. You know, you're changing your function, but remaining independent.
Because what do we say? What's our tagline? If you can't do it,
adapt it.
that's right.
I love that. It's so simple, yet it sticks, right? And it drives the point across, because so many times, and you know, I don't need a caregiver myself. Sometimes I would like to have somebody help me around, but that's another story for another day. But the shelves in my house are so tall. And I don't know if y'all know, but I'm short. I'm 5'2". So reaching for those items can become a monumental task. So I've had to use my little daughter's step stool or, you know, a chair in order to be able to get those things. And I'm just like, why would they build those shelves like all the way up there? But I cannot imagine for someone who has mobility issues or someone who's not able to reach or lift their arms. There are so many components that we fail to think about once we've experienced an injury of some sort. You know, we might get the financial advice or the other advice. Shout out to Jody Lamb, who deals with structured settlements when you're injured. But when we get home, how do we do this? So this is where you come in. We may not think about it, but you are there for the, you know, to the rescue, because you walk people through step by step. It's mind blowing. For example, I was seeing how you were showing the bra, right? The bra that the latest video, a zip up polo. It was a long sleeve. Things that you would never think about that are much needed in education, you know, educationally speaking. But it's such a creative and in just an amazing idea. That's all I'm going to say at that. But yeah, I think you were going to say something. Sorry. Go ahead. No,
I wasn't saying anything, girl. I'm reading people's comments. I am loving it. By the way, shout out to everyone. I'm trying to discreetly like add the comments, but I mean, we've got folks coming in from Dubai, by the way, Raquel. Like this is an international topic. Like we love our parents and family members, and it's a universal human situation, right? So you're just gonna see me scrolling, but yeah, thank you very much. I just want to give a shout out to Adrian Leal here, Kathleen Quinn, love you, girl.
Kathleen.
Thank you so
Stephen
much.
Ang, Leslie Neidick, they're out of New York. I mean, Janice out of Oregon. And we'll talk more about Taosi later.
Yes.
Mary Beth Flynn, I don't know where you're from, but beautiful. Thank you so much. I mean, guys, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to digress. Go ahead.
No, but that's the beauty, right? That caregiving is so universal. We will all experience this in one way or another. And for me, that is part of what drove me to be in the healthcare industry, right? Spending so many years in the home health environment and seeing what caregivers go through and the challenges that home health managers have in getting caregivers consistently to be there, because there's so much burnout. There's so much burnout. So where do we start to help with that, ladies?
Absolutely. You know, I feel like, especially with the pandemic, it used to be whenever I was in long-term care, the majority of my life was in long-term care and rehab care. And it felt like before the pandemic, what the therapist used to do is we would go to, so you set your goals with your patient, then you would go and take the patient to their home and you would see where maybe where you needed to readjust your goals to help them make that transition back home. And then when the pandemic happened, of course, we stopped going into the home as much. And it feels like there was a gap that was created now from whenever your loved one was at home, and then when they came transition back to their home and stuff. And because we weren't going into the homes to find out, all of that fell on the caregiver then, you know, as far as making that transition back home successful, because nobody wants the loved one or the patient to go back into the hospital. You know, the family doesn't want them to go back. The person doesn't want to go back, you know, as much as they can. Insurance doesn't want them to go back. The hospital doesn't want them to go back, you know? So by creating these helpful videos to show caregivers what you could do to set the home up to make that successful transition, we feel like really helped kind of bridge that gap that was being created.
Right.
And now, caregivers, you guys, that you are the focus now. I don't know if you know it, but you guys are the focus now. That is the buzzword. And so, making that transition, all of this care falls on your shoulders. And so if there's anything that we could do to help you understand how to make that transition back home, I feel like that's what we've tried to do with our videos and stuff. So that is a tough job. And so, we would encourage you to reach out to people in this industry. Go to our website. We've got a toolkit. It's called the Home Safety Toolkit that will help caregivers bridge that gap, and to set up the home. Because sometimes we have people that will say, caregivers will reach out to us and say, I got a call yesterday saying I had to come get mom from the rehab center and bring her home in 2 days. Well, have you checked this? Have you checked this? Have you checked this? No, I have no idea. And as therapists, we're not going into the home anymore. So again, that falls on the caregiver's shoulders.
Yeah. And unfortunately, with me, I've had a long history in home health. Unfortunately, now it can take quite a few weeks for home health service to get into the home and start that service. So there is that huge gap. And one thing that we always try to promote, and I know, we're just as guilty of this, but we always talk about, you don't need a roofer until your roof starts to leak.
That's true.
And it's the same thing, with caregiving. And we really would encourage people and caregivers, if there is any change in condition. And when we say change in condition, we mean, if mom was walking and now she's not, if they were, getting in and out of bed and now they're not, changing condition. If there is a planned hospital stay or if there's an unplanned hospital stay, as soon as they hit those doors to some type of a skilled service, you need to start thinking about, what am I going to do when they come back home?
That's what when I worked in long-term care, that's what we always said. You should start planning for discharge the day you're admitted.
Right.
So something that caregivers need to really, because again, all of that care is going to fall on your shoulders. So the day you walk in with your loved one to whatever facility, say, what are we going to do to get them back home?
Right.
Oh my goodness. Sound advice. And for me, again, just to add to what you're saying, we used to say, always have a plan. Always have a plan. Your parents are getting elderly. I know I'm referring to the elderly, but this could be for someone who had an injury. Like I said, it could be for a child, who has different abilities. So it can apply to so many different scopes, levels, and again, caregiving has so many faces, right?
Yeah, we get people, Raquel, that will reach out to us, will call us or send us an email, and they'll say, I'm getting ready to be discharged from the hospital. I mean, speaking of younger people, and they just gave me crutches, and it still has the cellophane wrapping on it. I don't know how to use it. I don't know. They're short, they're too tall, and so we always refer them to, we've got lots of videos that talk about how to use crutches. And so we always refer them to that, but it's just like, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like how to go up and downstairs with crutches, like all of those things that you don't think you would need, or you think you will figure out, or you'll wing it. There's some things you can't wing, sweetheart. It's it's an issue. So when it comes to that,
it compounds the danger. I mean, if you don't know how to use crutches, and then you got to go up a few stairs to get into your home, then that's huge. It just makes the danger more imperative.
You're risking a refall or whatever it is that, a re-injuring. But go ahead. Yeah.
I was just saying, I've been doing a lot of research because, we picked up a client in the continuum of care. So shout out Carrying Oregon crew. I just read a stat, you guys, that blew my fracking mind, which is 1 in 4, so that would be 25% of the population, 65 and above, has fallen.
Yes. And
I did not know that.
Yes.
Here's a scarier statistic.
Yes. Once they fall, they're 50% more likely to have another fall. Yeah.
That's
so
crazy.
It increases, doubles their chances.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah.
Again, people, you don't realize, you don't think about what you don't know. I mean, I have a 2-story house, and there's a very real, my mom's 89, right? So if my mom came to live with me, or my boyfriend's mom came to live with us, we would have to seriously consider, moving our house around, right, to accommodate them. And it was a very real conversation. And, initially it was like, oh no, we can mom and dad can walk up and down the stairs. It's like, you're going to carry 100 and 200-pound person up and down stairs? No,
Right.
you cannot. Right.
Yeah. And that just kind of, and then, so I mean, so some caregivers go into it with that mindset, Sia. I mean, it's expensive but they don't realize how quickly that will break down your body. Just ask any therapist how quickly your body breaks down, because you're just trying to help.
Right.
But man, your back, I mean, when you're trying to lift somebody that maybe can't lift, 75% of their body weight, it will break down your body as a caregiver. I mean, the statistics on a caregiver getting sick or passing away prior to ending their caregiving journey is scary.
Yeah.
No, the thing to also note, in addition to what you ladies are saying, is whenever that change in structure happens in a home, it affects the entire family unit. It just doesn't affect the caregiver or the patient itself, but it affects the entire family unit, because it's like a trickle, right? It trickles everywhere. And for me, that's important. And so many, year after year, I used to see how people will fall ill, caregivers will fall ill. They would, whether it's physical or mental, just the stress of just being there for someone else, for another human being, it takes a toll. Having said that, I want to send my regards to one of my good friends, Fumi. We love you, and you are in our thoughts. Her family's having to go through the caregiving journey, and had a pleasure of seeing them yesterday, so was able to give some information. But I am just wanting to be there for them, to support them. Having support and a reliable community definitely helps a little bit in the journey. So
remind people. I think caregivers need to be reminded, you are not alone, right? And Adrian, I just want to leave. I would left his comment up there. Yes, there is very much lending closets in Houston, right, ladies?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you go to our aecorner.com, up in the menu bar is a resource page, and you click on the resource, and I think the top 2 resource links are for lending closets. They're national directories for lending closet. Please visit there. I think it's listed by state, and then you put in your city and zip, or that comes up with a map and stuff. So please check that out and try it before you buy it. It's expensive being a caregiver.
Right.
It truly is. And, hitting the pockets, right? It's, you always think about that. And then we try to cut ends or cut the means, but then at which price and at what cost, right? That is where we come in. And that is where we worked tirelessly to be able to educate caregivers. There are other ways that we can adapt what you have in a safe manner that is smart and that will be conducive to still taking care of that patient or your loved one at home. So can you tell me a little bit about some ideas, that you've seen? Because I see y'all review so many things. I see you put in like tape and so many different gadgets, right?
Packs. Right. It's kind of difficult. There's so many things. I'll tell you one thing that I absolutely love, and it's silly and it's simple, but when you're talking about caregiving and having to do a lot of pulling and pushing and things like that, especially if someone is bedbound and has difficulty in moving themselves. We have done a video on a tubular slide sheet. And I think it's like, $20, $25, something like that on Amazon. We have it on our website. And because it's tubular, it's slick. And just remember that. So it has to be removed from underneath the person. But putting that under them, it makes such a difference in moving them, especially if you are by yourself. Trying to move somebody in bed, whether you're rolling them and positioning them on their side or up and down in the bed, that up and down in the bed, especially if you're in a regular bed and not in a hospital bed that can't be moved away from the wall or moved out in front in the middle of the room so that you can get at the head of it. If they're in a regular bed, that tubular slide sheet, because of the slickness and it's sliding on itself, makes it much easier. Now, is it simple? No, but it is much easier than trying to physically move somebody on your own without that. And it's, it's just something, we used to use transfer sheets, and I don't even know when I came across it. It wasn't but a couple of years ago. And it's just like, wow, why did I not know about this when I was
it certainly is will extend a caregiver's journey. I'd save their back a little bit more and extend it. So, we also have on our in our caregiver resource library, we also have in the videos, we also have things about proper body mechanics for the caregiver.
Right.
Because you have to, again, you have to take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. Right. So it's like somebody we were talking to the other day was talking about, like in a plane, putting on your oxygen mask first and then helping others. It's the same thing as providing yourself with that care so that you can care for others. So that's tubular slide sheet is
but the body mechanics is huge as well. And the other thing, and I know, caregivers, it's again a drain physically and emotionally, but using good body mechanics, adjusting, bed heights. Sometimes if you have a hospital bed, if you adjust the foot and lower the head, and that helps you, gravity helps you.
Yeah.
All of those little things that may take a little bit longer, allowing your loved one to help as much as they can
is huge.
And giving them verbal cues is going to save you as a caregiver. And yes, it may take a little bit longer, but that's going to extend your caregiving life.
And not only helping the caregiver by having your loved one do as much as they possibly can, it helps with their dignity and maintaining.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if you, as an adult, I've been doing this my whole life, and now I have to depend on another adult for this care. I want to do for me, I'll want to do as much as I physically can to feel better about myself. So really that is a win-win situation.
Right.
Love how it's emerging, is coming together and it's a collaborative effort in order to be able to properly and smart way care for that patient. And yes, the dignity part, oh my God, does it have a lot to do. I see it with my own dad. It's just like, I don't want to be a burden to you. You're not being a burden. I just want to safely make sure that we take care of you. We do not want something else to happen as a consequence, because you want to do it yourself. So it's definitely, communication is super, super important. And that is one of the,
talking about, as a caregiver, having grace to care for your loved one and giving grace to your loved one. Well, the loved one also has that grace that they need to think about in return. The adult loved one needs to think about giving that grace to the one that's caring for them. And I'm sure everybody would want to think about their loved one that's caring for them. They don't want to put them in that situation. So I think that giving grace goes both ways.
Absolutely.
I got to tell you, we are our worst own patient, right? Like in our, for people who are very independent minded and stubborn, 100% is, look, give grace to the people trying to love you. Right. And I get it. Like, I argue with my boyfriend all the time. He's like, look, if I can't do something, I'm going to do it myself. I remember COVID, perfect example. People are knocked out with COVID, and you're trying to love and take care of your loved one, right? And they're knocked out, right? Because it was scary back then. We didn't know what was going on, and it's to be patient with one another as they're learning that process. And the other thing is, if I may add, because I've got Andrew, is it Pooch?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for contributing this comment. But
it's a great.
You got to give yourself time out, like vacation time, if you will. And I get it. If it's not you taking care of someone, then who is? But you got to find those mini vacations, if you will, right? Like go take a bath, like, and just like get some oil essence, whatever that's.
Epsom salt.
Yes. Yeah. And depending on the person too, Andrew, that you're caring for, there might be something in their insurance that will allow for respite care. So for example, with, an elderly person that you're caring for, if they're on Medicare will allow for a few days of respite that will allow, and I know this is tough. It's easier said than done, but Medicare will allow you to get that respite you need by putting your loved one in a little mini vacation for everybody, in a rehab facility for a few days to give you that ability to care for yourself. And then while they're in there, they'll get a little bit of therapy as well. and then you can get that break. Thinking about, like vacations and stuff, wherever you're leaving from or wherever your destination is, see if they have a lending closet. Let's say you're going on a cruise and you're leaving somewhere in Florida. Look for a lending closet that you can borrow that stuff from, have it ready to go. And then when you get on the ship or you get on whatever you're going, then, you could borrow that stuff. And then when you come back to port, you return the stuff too. Right. So, but think of that respite care. Is there, if insurance is involved, what's it going to hurt to reach out to them and say, do you provide any coverage for respite care?
Right. And we learned yesterday that there may be some grants in the state. You need to check your state. There may be some grants for some partial payment on respite too. So
I think a lot of that's coming out from from the COVID money.
Yeah.
Too.
And I think it may be ending. I don't know if at the end of this year or in a year, but check your state to see if there's some extra monies.
Talk to your area agency on aging.
Yeah.
Every state has a handful of area agencies on aging. If you're caring for an elderly loved one, and get involved with your area agency on aging. They have lots of programs that they support. And they would be able to find out what you will qualify for as a caregiver. Because again, caregiver is the buzzword for all area agencies on aging. And then also, are there any programs that your loved one would also qualify for? Right. If you're not involved with your area agency on aging, find out who it is. Again, you could go, that's another resource on our resource page. It's a national directory. You put in your city and state or your zip code, and they will tell you who your area agency on aging is.
Yes, a lot of resources, and I'm glad you guys mentioned the area of aging and the agencies, because it's very important. For so long I worked with Medicaid. I worked directly with the state, so I was able to see both sides: the patient side, right? The entire paperwork, everything that had to be done, the entire process, in order for them to get services such as home health, provider services, as we call sometimes, right? But then also pairing them up with a caregiver, or hiring a family member or somebody, a family friend, someone whom they trust, because it boils down to that as well. Right. The trust. Who are we allowing in their home? And I'm talking specifically about caring for someone in their home, not in a facility, but more in their home. But trust is a big factor. And after COVID hit, man, it just changed everything in the way we definitely do things in the caregiving world. So many challenges that we face. What do you think are some of the major challenges that caregivers are facing nowadays?
I would say probably that transition, for like having a loved one in the hospital or a rehab facility. I mean, especially for those caregivers that maybe just became caregivers because of something where they're in the hospital, and they've never had to deal with that loved one's insurance before or Medicare before. And so now not only are you thrust in the physical world of caregiving, now you're thrust into the industry of insurance.
And endless paperwork.
That's right. It's huge. And so I again, going back to the area agency on aging, they have like senior health insurance program, SHIP with a P, see, and not a T. SHIP, Senior Health Insurance Programming. So if you reach out to them, the state has that program. It's a state-run program. They can help with insurance and help with, Medicare and Medicaid and stuff, and at least point you in the right direction. Because again, caring for your loved one, the physical part of it is a lot. But then when you add insurance and Medicare on the top of that, please get involved with your area agency on aging, and they can point you in the right direction for that. Especially like with discharge. I think discharge from a hospital, that's huge. I think.
Yeah, it is.
Because the hospital, they're caring for you, they're taking care of you, they're taking care of your loved one. But they've also got that insurance component too. So it just seems like it would make a really good team. We're in this together, but you have to advocate for your loved one.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
I'm sure the hospital's looking out for you and everything, but you still have to advocate for your loved one when it comes to that, to that hospital, because, it's a business, right? The bottom line is staying afloat,
right?
Especially in today's environment with some of these more rural hospitals, closing down left and right.
Yes.
I mean, their bottom line is going to be that money. So that just makes it so that you really have to advocate. And I think that goes for with the rehab facilities as well.
Right.
You know, is that bottom line in advocating for your loved one.
Yeah. In that initial coming home, that first night home, the first 2 days home, that could make or break all of you, you know, the caregiver and the care recipient, you know, time and time again. And this has to do with just surgeries. It's not, you know, it was a planned thing, you know, but time and time again, we talk to people. I would go to see people the day after they get home, and they are fit to be tied because of pain, because they're not set up. You know, the toilet's too low. They can't get off of it. The bed is too high. They can't get in it. And the only place that they consider their comfy chair is too low and they can't get out, you know? So that first night and that first day, one of the big things I always saw, and I always talk to my clients about, especially if you're coming out after a surgery, is before they let you go from a hospital, make sure they time your pain medicine correctly.
Oh man, that's huge. That's
they
for
know.
anybody.
And they send you with a script, and then your person takes you home and they go stay in line, you know, at the pharmacy for 2 hours. And by the time you get that dose that you need, it's done. You're done, you know. So there's just so many little things. And that's another thing that we offer is we tried to compile some discharge questions. You know, what are questions that you need to be asking your therapist, your doctor, the nurses before you take your person home?
Yeah, that's all in our caregiver resource library, and that's listed on our website. Yeah, so,
it's definitely that transitional phase, right, from discharge to home, and how to revamp, for lack of better words, your home to get it ready for the patient. It can be shocking because we don't think about those small things like taping cords down or moving the carpets and the rugs where somebody can trip and fall and, you know, injure themselves faster, or just making sure that everything is sanitized so that they don't get an infection of any sort. It's just so many things that will boggle the mind. And sometimes we don't have the mental bandwidth to be able to deal with those things, especially if you don't have, as I think Sincera mentioned, the emotional capability to do that. So it's very important to surround ourselves with a supported system, to have a plan set, even if it's just a day surgery, minor surgery, something that is not, not planned for, but to have a planning, some sort of agenda or, checklist. And I love that you guys do that, not only for the home, but for, going to travel at hotels. You also review hotel rooms for accessibility. Tell us a little bit about that. It's because I'm excited about that.
Yeah. So Cindy and I, just kind of to back up a little bit, we get companies that will send us, our YouTube channels about new products and stuff like that. So companies send us their products. We do a review on it, and now we've got the product, right? So what Cindy and I have been doing the past few years is taking all the products, putting it in a van and driving around the country and giving people the opportunity to engage with those products. So that they can find out if it's something that would be helpful for them, and then ask a therapist, is this something that would work in their situation? So it gives them a chance to engage with it. So as we were traveling across the country, of course, we're staying in hotel rooms, right? So we thought, wow, let's, because we're just staying in standard hotel rooms, right? We're not staying at, the penthouse suite, which would be awesome. But so what we do is when we So we get in the standard room in a hotel chain. And so what we've been doing, we have this set of criteria that we're checking each hotel we stay with. And then we just make a video and we put it on, we put it together and make a little video, and we call it Checking Standard Hotel Rooms for Senior Friendliness. It's the same things that we look for every time, not only for senior friendliness, but their caregiver that's along with them. We were at one hotel one time that was, the elevator was so teeny tiny. Right. I mean,
trying to get a walker and a person.
It was just crazy. So we put those together. They're on a playlist on our YouTube channel. We got probably about 12 of them out there that we've done checking.
I love them, by the way. It's such an innovative way to be able to educate, help the caregivers, and just literally concise all that help and education in one place. So guys, please, please, please scan this QR code, for the resource library for caregivers. It is amazing. Besides the educational value, it's the entertainment. I love it. Every time you pop up on my feed and everywhere, like I see videos, I just have this huge smile because I'm fangirling over here. So let me control.
I am here fangirling behind the scenes here because I don't want my mug interfering with the QR codes. Guys, please continue to scan it. The resources available to you. It's scary, you guys. I think it's very scary to know that you are the person taking care of your loved ones. It's a huge burden to be holding that responsibility physically, mentally, and then can I ask you guys a question? Is we have communities and your tribe and whatnot, but there's a question that Janice had asked, which is, what if you were to literally be in the hospital and you're preparing to take someone home and you're now entering a new phase in your life, what would be the first thing you suggest they should do when they get home? Is it call go to your guys' resource library, but what else would be the first thing you would recommend someone do when they get home?
Yeah. I think it would depend. It's going to depend, Sia. Did you get a few days, like maybe a week or two notice that your loved one was coming home and taking advantage of those few, like the week or week and a half that you got to prepare? Or did they just call in a couple of days and now you kind of got to get ready? That's kind of how we break down our home safety toolkit in our resource library. But if you've only got a few days.
Right. Well, on our website, we have a quick start guide.
Yeah.
And we're just looking at and see, I'm going to back up and just say, I don't want to say, what do we need to do when we get home?
Yeah.
We're going to say, what are we going to do before we bring our loved one home? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that quick start guide, names the top 3, the toilet, the bed height, and the comfy chair height, checking those.
Shows you how to do it.
Yeah, it shows you how to do, correct those if you need to. And then, of course, the home safety toolkit. But, if you have, if we're talking about an aging parent or an aging loved one that you're dealing with, I can't stress enough to try to be proactive.
Yeah.
And, besides the hospital stays or skilled nursing stays or whatever, get them involved in resources like the Area Agency on Aging and things like that. So you prepare yourself ahead of time. And I know, again, we all procrastinate and don't do that, but I can't say that enough, is to be prepared ahead of time.
Yeah, that's the big thing. And, and checking those in even if you only have a couple of days, get into their home, if you're getting your home ready because you're wanting to bring them home, check those 3 areas. If you go to our website, I think before you get off the website, it pops up and says, if you put your email address in there, we'll send you that quick start guide.
I love that little nudge. Yes. Love that little nudge.
3 areas because, and we touched on this earlier, there's nothing worse than getting your loved one home and they get stuck in their comfy chair. Maybe it's a recliner or a rocker recliner, right? And it rocks forward and they can't stand up. Maybe they just had some kind of joint replacement, a hip replacement or knee replacement.
Right.
They can't get out of their chair and they got to go to the bathroom, right? So you finally get them out and then you get them on the toilet and the toilet's too low and they can't get off the toilet and now they're tired and you finally get them off the toilet and you want to get them into bed, but the bed's too high. I mean, I know my bed is huge. It's very tall. I have to pole vault to get into it. Yeah. So I can't imagine having some kind of surgery or weakness and not being able to get into my bed, especially when I just got home.
Right. And just FYI, this what we're talking about here has been a real live scenario in my home health experience.
Yeah.
And it almost put a husband and wife under in the first day. And, and that's needless because once we got there and got some things straightened out, we used a couple of pieces of wood block that he had in the garage to straighten out his comfy chair so that it could, he could get out of it. It's that preparation ahead of time. I can't say.
Oh my goodness. There are so many, there are thousands of things that we can go, and
I want to talk all day long about this. I do want to shout out Adrian Leal, by the way, something for our veterans out there.
Yes.
Thank you so much for serving for our country, but you do have resources. And I know too many veterans, good, bad, ugly, and different, that are very independent minded, who don't leverage the resources from the VA. Good, bad,
Right.
ugly, and different with VA system. We'll talk about that
Yeah,
later. But
Absolutely.
Right.
but you do have that ability. You do have resources. I just want to remind people of that as well. So thank you, Adrian, for your father's service,
Yes.
and everyone that has served. I just want to
Yes.
highlight that comment. I'm 19 minutes behind on comments, you guys. Everyone's like flying in with comments.
Amazing. But that just shows, it really goes to show that it's needed. This is information that will never go out of style or it's on trend. It would always be needed. It's a needed resource. We focus a lot, right? Because it's a large chunk of what caregiving entails, but we focus a lot on the physicality, right? And the emotions and everything. But let's not forget though that dementia, right,
Yes.
plays a huge
Absolutely.
part in caregiving as well. They don't necessarily have to have a physical ailment or
right.
a mobility issue. Just the fact that they may forget to turn off the stove, or they may forget where they were going, they cannot find their way back. All of that really falls on the caregiver as well.
Absolutely.
So how do we start preparing for those moments when, if your loved one got lost or they don't know how to get back, they lost their phone, they can't get back to it. These are realities that have happened and they play themselves out every single day.
Absolutely.
How are we prepared for that? So this is something too, right? I just wanted to bring that.
It is. And that's a tough one. That's a tough one, Raquel, because it is everybody. I mean, dementia is just this huge umbrella, and, different types of dementia fall under that umbrella. And everybody's different. When I did speech therapy in a long-term care facility, working in memory care units in the memory care communities, and that was my favorite because you got, but see, they weren't my family members, which makes it's a whole different story. But, and that as that loved one, it's almost like mourning the death of that loved one. It's a slow process of mourning that loss of that person over time when they're still physically with us, and getting to know that person almost all over again, because they're not the person that they used to be. That is really tough. But there's so much stuff that you can learn about your loved one. But you have to be willing to learn to be in their time frame, in their world, that it's not really about you and your time frame in your world. It's about them and keeping them safe, and redirecting and learning, what does your loved one respond to, knowing full well that in a few months or years that's going to change, and you're going to have to be flexible enough to kind of change with it. And find, just for example, I have, working with people swallowing. When I work in the memory care unit, swallowing, dysphagia was hard. It was a common occurrence for people in the memory care. They forget that hunger in their belly, the hunger pains, that can be alleviated by giving themselves food, and they forget how to feed themselves. And so that's a hard one, but learning what kind of triggers at that point in time. I had a woman, for example, that I was working with, and I know this sounds odd, but if I put mayonnaise on it, she would eat it. I don't care if it was pancakes or if it was oatmeal. And I'm not even sure how I found out about it, but yeah, I got that. So she was losing weight. And so I found mayonnaise awesome, right? So there's some extra calories right there. But I found out. And so then I explained it to the caregivers, and the CNAs put mayonnaise on it, and it changed over time. But at least for that point in time, we were able to maintain her caloric intake and put a little bit more weight on her and stuff. So stuff like with dementia, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. You just have to be willing to be in their world and on their timeline, and get to know them all over again. And that is really tough for family caregivers.
And there's a lot of good resources. We've got a lot of good resources out there.
Yeah. Like if you go out onto social media, and there's a lot of speech therapists, occupational therapists. If you type in, dementia care, like hashtag dementia care. You're going to see a lot of people that have some really great, you're just like, man, I didn't even think about that.
Right.
But, Tipa Snow, she's another person.
Yes, shout out to Tipa. Yay.
She is amazing. Yeah. So, and I know she's on TikTok. I believe she's on Instagram too. So,
Right.
I mean, if you want to get some really great ideas, I would look her up for sure.
That's right.
Yes. Oh my goodness, ladies. I know that we could go for hours and hours. We have gone for hours and hours going back and forth discussing.
You guys need to come back. I think, Raquel,
Yes.
they need to be like, what is that? Like, no, I don't want to say that you guys are Dr. Phil, but you know what I'm saying? You guys need to come back as a reminder, like for your show. Raquel, seriously, because we haven't even touched the surface of all the other different options. But you know what, though?
For
those that want
holidays,
this
the
conversation,
holidays that are coming up. Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But heads up, shout out. Engines Off is a monthly show here on LinkedIn that Cindy and Christina roll with. There's Rolling with Ruby on the YouTube channel. You guys, this QR code, please scan this QR code. There's so many resources. The YouTube channels is like amazing resource. There's a growing library of content if you just want to watch with your loved ones. Both for edutainment and for just pure education purposes, you guys. I cannot impress more. Please scan the QR code. And this QR code is not to like, oh, buy this. It's get yourself educated.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's over 200 videos on there, Sia, and we try to keep the videos short so that you have time to watch them as needed, because we know you don't have the time, and we value that time, and we appreciate the time that you're putting into care for your loved one. So we try to keep the videos short.
And another thing that I love about him, Christina and Cindy, is the fact that the whole family can get involved. The whole family can learn together, ranging, a child, not a baby, but a young child to an adult, person. They can learn how to safely and intelligently care for their loved one, or using adaptive equipment, or using the means that they have, right? Yeah. The idea is to be able to deliver that value for the caregivers, because they so need it. Our hearts are with you, caregivers. We understand. We've been there. We've done that. We continue doing it, and we continue showing up, because we know how difficult it can be. But you are not alone. Always remember that. Before we wrap up, I definitely want to be able to give a shout out to another innovative soul who, you guys alluded to that earlier, that, out of ingenuity, out of necessity, products are born. Adaptive equipment is born. So definitely want to give a shout out to an amazing human being, Janice Shokrian, for creating, in memory of her father, and a Tausi. And if you don't know what a Tausi is, well, how about, I have one right there. How about you watch the following so you can learn a little bit more of this phenomenal, stellar product, Tausi.
Play. Oh my God, play.
Falling asleep with your head in the wrong position is a pain in the neck. You deserve Tausi Comfort for head, neck, and back support. Go to tausibrands.com and get your comfort on.
Yay! The comfort of knowing you have comfort at your fingertips. It is a wonderful thing. And Janice, thank you so much, Tausi, for being a sponsor of this episode. That is so much needed, right? It goes hand in hand. Comfort, caregiving, and comfort go hand in hand. So
that's right.
We must do everything to be able to provide that information and the comfort that our families in totality, that whole family unit needs when it comes to caregiving for our loved ones. So, oh my gosh, you guys, I'm telling you, you have to come back. There's no two ways about it.
We would have to. Love to. Absolutely.
And so, a golden nugget to leave us with, ladies. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I love doing that, just because it's so important. Out of the entire thing that we take away from today, what would you tell our audience?
I typically, again, always say, please, please, please let your loved one do as much as they can for their sake, dignity-wise, independence-wise, for your sake as a caregiver.
Yeah, and mine is usually you are not alone. There is a whole industry out here for you, a whole caregiving industry that you just have to reach out. I mean, reach out to us. If we don't know, we will try to get you in touch with other, with other people within the industry. But it's a whole industry, and you do not have to do this alone.
Right. And Raquel, if I can just throw one other thing in here, because we've got some exciting news coming up on our next Engines Off. You guys need to stay tuned for that. It's in the caregiving space, and I think it's going to revolutionize as it's called goinstacare.com. And we were talking about caregivers and matching caregivers to the care recipients
And respite care.
And respite care. And I think as this company develops, it's going to be a game changer for our caregivers in finding care, not to mention independent caregivers, but for companies also looking for employees. So
shout out to Go Instacare.
Yes, shout out
You
to
say
Go
it's called Go Instacare.
Instacare.com.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. It sounds like it's already revolutionary, and oh my gosh, again, we're in front of royalty here. I commend you for everything that you are doing in just to really pave ways and help the caregivers of the world, because this is a universal factor that unites us. So please guys, do not forget to scan the code. There's so much available there, resource wise, talking about over 200 videos of how to do so many things, where to go, what to find, and what to do. If you do not know, please connect with the Christina and Cindy. They have a LinkedIn. They're everywhere. Okay. I am talking about they're everywhere. Even TikTok. I mean, I love the fact that you are
ladies on TikTok.
But you have
That's the best.
You have cemented yourselves in a place where you wouldn't think, right? That's the entire relatability of what caregiving is and what it means to people in the world. Everyone goes through that. Everyone will experience it at least once in their lives. So again, one last time, they can find you YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram.
Facebook, Instagram, Threads.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. There you go. Are you on X?
Not anymore.
No, not anymore. Okay. All right. So again, Christina and Cindy, you can find them or as Adaptive Equipment and Caregiving Corner, and we'll provide all the links. They're also, so many people have been already putting them in the comments. Thank you to all the people who have been commenting. I'm sure Christina and Cindy will take their time to respond to some of those questions that we were not able to address. I really, really appreciate everyone. Sia, is there anything that you would like to tell our caregivers out there as a golden nugget of departure?
I know I don't want to be the last word. All I just want to say is just everyone, thank you so much in the chat. Everyone has been so very vocal. If you haven't read the comments, or you guys, please do. It's absolutely amazing. It seems to me, as we know, we're all touched by this. So thank you so very much for that. I do want to answer one quick question. I think it was one of the comments earlier. I just want to say, there are tons of resources available. There's one thing that I just want to say. Oh my God, there's so many comments, you guys. You got to come back for round 2, you guys. You just have to. I can't even get back.
We'll go through this what we can after the show. Okay.
Yeah, please do. And then also, this show, the Influencers Connection Corner, plus anything from Adaptive Equipment, AE Corner on YouTube. Everything's on YouTube, you guys. We are live streaming to YouTube at speak. It's not just a LinkedIn show, and it's also available in podcast format as well. Please share this with your families, because people need to hear this. Even if you are in your 20s, get ready, peoples, because you will be like Raquel, a sandwich generation where you've got children and you got to take care of your elders. This is not a old person situation. It could be your child, or your sibling that has a lifelong need, right? So guys, thank you so much for everything. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It really helps everybody. And I know we don't say this enough, you guys. Like and subscribe, please. I know it sounds like, oh my God, you're pandering, but it does help the YouTube algorithm. It does help the LinkedIn algorithms as well. So that was my
I love it. I love it. So many wonderful golden nuggets, ladies. So many requests, but this is a collective effort. We're definitely working together to make the caregiving space a little bit more, I would say, nurturing. We want to
Yes.
be supportive. We want to be there because we know what it feels like. And just to surmise, you are not alone. And my golden nugget to close out, I would say, do not fear to advocate. If you find yourself in that fear, please reach out. I will speak on behalf of anyone. I have no shame in that regards when it comes to making sure that the caregiver and their patient or their loved one is taken care of. We will advocate. So please feel free to reach out. We are here for you. We are one. Okay. We love you guys. Thank you so much, ladies. It's been an honor, and I cannot wait to continue this journey with both of you, and all the wonderful things to come. So thank you, audience, for just being amazing, and we'll see you next time with a fantastic and stellar guest. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Bye. Bye-bye.
For joining. If you enjoyed today's